Brilliance Audio presents One Part Woman by Perumal Murugan.
Translated by Anirudhan Vasudevan.
Performed by Deepa Samuel. The Portia tree was dense with foliage. If you looked closely, you could see the yellow trumpet-like flowers with their flared mouths and the drooping, fading red ones with their inviting smiles. Portia flowers always grow more beautiful as they fade. Kali leapt up and plucked one. He never could resist the desire to possess what attracted him. The leaves came ripped, but the flower was intact. Settling down on the cot, he smelled the flower. It had a mild fragrance even when held close to the nose. He felt he should have left it on the tree. The sight of the flower on the tree was more beautiful than its scent. He ran his eyes over the tree. It was he who had planted it there, in the front yard of his father-in-law's home. Before that, whenever he had visited this house, the sight of the bare front yard had always hurt his eyes. This forced him to remain indoors until the sun went down. And because of his presence, the women folk were not able to carry on their private chatter. So he spoke to his brother-in-law about it. "Wouldn't it be good to have a tree here?" "The family refuses to have one. They say they need the sun to dry groundnuts and corn. Why don't you try talking to my father?" Kali didn't do anything at the time. However, on his next visit, he brought along a stalk. On the way, he only smiled when Ponna said, "Why are you lugging this along, Mama?" She gave him an affectionate punch on his cheek and said, "You hardly say anything. All I get is that bewitching smile." It had been just 3 months into their marriage, and they refused to stay away from each other, even for a little while. They couldn't even resist constantly looking at each other's faces. But that day, when Kali visited his father-in-law's place, he didn't enter the house. He grabbed a rake and a spade and got started on his work immediately. He found a place to plant the stalk, a spot where it could grow without hindrances and be able to spread its branches in all directions. Even when it was just a stalk, in his mind, Kali could see the tree it would grow into one day. He could see how it would look 10, 20 years later. He had got this stalk from the Portia tree in his cattle enclosure back home. No one knew when that other tree had been planted. The gigantic spread of that tree was etched in his mind, and he hoped this one too would grow the same way. He imagined how the front yard would look when the tree spread its branches over it. Even while planting it, he focused on the pleasure of being able to lie in its cool shade someday. No one objected to the new son-in-law's fancies. Even before the cow dung bandage at the end of the stalk dried, shoots started sprouting. There was now an obligation to protect the tree that the son-in-law had planted. Afraid that she would forget to water the tree alongside all her other chores, his mother-in-law started washing dishes right beside the tree. She also kept a big pot of water there for people to wash their hands and feet when they came back from somewhere. So the space under the tree was always wet. And whenever Kali visited, that was the first spot he went to, making note of the tree's growth. "Your son-in-law comes here only to make sure we're taking good care of his dowry." His father-in-law's teasing became a regular feature. The tree was called the son-in-law's dowry. Just as he was never called by his name, neither was his tree. In just 1 year, it grew so tall that one could stand to full height under the new branches. After all, it had come from another tree that had withstood the vagaries of time. The next year, there were flowers and then fruits. 12 years went by in a flash. The tree kept growing and spreading every year. Now 10 cots could lie in its shade. It didn't shed much, but when it did, his mother-in-law would complain. "This is an endless task, this sweeping, cleaning, and taking care of my son-in-law's dowry." His father-in-law delighted at the sight of the compost pits getting filled with the tree's leaves. The tree gave as much manure as a cow did, and it was definitely enough for one enclosure. What the son-in-law had given them was certainly a gift.